The seeds of war were sown in 1328, when the French throne was left without a direct heir. England's King Edward III, grandson of France's Philip IV, had a claim, but the French rejected him. Instead, they crowned Philip VI, sparking a war that would last over a century. France denies my rightful claim. If Philip VI wants war, he shall have it. The French have seized Gascony, Your Majesty. War is inevitable. Then we take it back, by steel and fire. A massive medieval naval battle on the stormy English Channel. French and English warships clash, their wooden hulls creaking as they collide. English longbowmen stand on deck, drawing their bows and releasing a storm of arrows that rain down on French sailors who scream and fall into the sea. A French flagship burns, its masts breaking apart, while knights in chainmail engage in brutal close combat aboard the rocking ships. Admiral d'Harcourt, in blue and gold armor, tries to rally his men, but is struck down by an English knight wielding a longsword. England's first move was a decisive naval battle at Sluys in 1340, where its powerful longbowmen and well-trained sailors crushed the French fleet. English longbowmen fire volleys of arrows, cutting down French sailors. English ships ram French vessels, and knights leap aboard for hand-to-hand combat. French Admiral d'Harcourt falls, his sword slipping into the blood-stained sea. Cut to King Edward III, standing on the deck of an English ship, victorious, his cape flapping in the wind as he gazes at the burning French fleet on the horizon. A vast battlefield in northern France, where thousands of French knights in shining plate armor charge towards the English lines. The cloudy sky darkens as a wave of arrows from thousands of English longbowmen fills the air. Horses rear and collapse, their riders tumbling into the mud. The Black Prince, a young warrior with dark armor and a lion-emblazoned shield, commands his men from a hilltop, his sword raised high. French soldiers scream as they fall, their armor pierced by deadly arrows. Cut to King Philip VI of France, watching from afar, his face pale with shock as his army collapses in chaos. At Crecy in 1346, the English longbowmen proved their worth, slaughtering the heavily armored French cavalry. French knights struggle in muddy terrain, their horses falling under relentless arrow fire. Prince Edward, the Black Prince, fights fiercely, inspiring his men. The French army collapses. King Philip VI retreats in disgrace. Cut to Edward III, smiling as his son, the Black Prince, kneels before him. A greater enemy than war arrived. The Black Death. The bubonic plague wiped out a third of Europe's population, forcing a temporary halt to hostilities. In 1356, at Poitiers, the English struck again, capturing King John II of France, further weakening the French kingdom. Inside a stone-walled medieval chamber, English and French diplomats sign a parchment treaty under the glow of candlelight. Gold coins pile on the table, payment for King John's ransom. A French noble clenches his fists, his face dark with resentment. Outside, peasants cheer, thinking the war is over, but in the shadows, soldiers sharpen their swords, preparing for the next battle. The Treaty of Bretigny in 1360 granted England vast territories, but peace was short-lived. France's darkest hour saw the rise of a peasant girl, Joan of Arc, who led an unlikely resistance against English forces. A young peasant girl in shining silver armor rides at the head of a French army, her banner waving high. Her eyes burn with divine conviction as she leads her troops into battle. The French charge through the smoke, striking English positions near Orleans. English archers fire, but Joan dodges arrows, lifting her sword skyward. French soldiers rally behind her, pushing back the English forces. Joan rallies her troops. Fight for France and God. French soldiers storm English positions, their spirits renewed. English commanders watch in shock as their forces fall back. Joan, victorious, kneels in prayer, her face illuminated by torchlight, thanking God for victory as Orleans is liberated.
A medieval courtroom filled with corrupt judges in dark robes. Joan stands defiant, her chains rattling as she refuses to deny her visions. The crowd whispers, half admiring, half fearing her. Captured and betrayed, Joan was condemned by the English and burned at the stake in 1431. But her legacy would change the war forever. Joan tied to the stake, flames rising. Her last words, "France will be free." French villagers weeping as the fire consumes her.
The Battle of Castillon, where French cannons roar, breaking English formations. Fire and smoke fill the battlefield, and English troops scatter in panic. A French knight on horseback raises a victory flag, and a voice echoes over the scene. France has won. Cut to a final English soldier fleeing to the coast, the last of England's forces leaving France forever. The war's final battle at Castillon in 1453 saw the rise of French artillery, crushing the last English resistance. The Hundred Years' War reshaped Europe. France emerged stronger, while England turned inward, paving the way for the Wars of the Roses.